They say the most haunting memories aren't the loud ones. They're not the ones you scream out in a fight or cry over during heartbreak. No, they're the quiet ones. The ones you keep locked deep inside, because if you ever said them out loud, if you ever dared to give them life, you're afraid they'd destroy the version of yourself you've carefully built over the years. And you know what? They're usually tied to people you thought you knew best. Family, the kind of people you'd never question, never fear, never expect to be the source of anything twisted. I wasn't prepared. God. I really wasn't prepared for what my nephew did in the bathroom that day. And maybe, if I'm being honest, I wasn't prepared for how I reacted either. You ever have one of those moments where time just stops? Like the air gets thick and the world around you blurs, and all you can hear is your heartbeat banging in your ears? That was me, that day. I can still feel the tiles under my feet. Still smell the faint vanilla scent from the candle I always kept in there. That little bathroom, it used to be my quiet place. My escape. Somewhere I could breathe when the rest of the house felt like a cage. But now? Now I can't walk past it without feeling my stomach turn. It's strange, isn't it? How quickly something so innocent can become so loaded. This wasn't supposed to happen. It was just a family visit. My sister asked if Tyler, my nephew, could stay with us for a few weeks while he visited colleges nearby. Of course, I said yes. He was always sweet, respectful, a little quiet, maybe, but never disrespectful, never dangerous, never that. I welcomed him into our home like I always had. And for a while, it was nice. Too nice, maybe. But I didn't see it coming. And if I'm really, painfully honest, maybe part of me didn't want to. Maybe I was too caught up in the way he noticed me. The way his eyes lingered a little longer than they should have. The way he spoke to me like I mattered, like I wasn't just some worn-out housewife collecting dust in the background of her own life. My husband sure didn't notice me anymore. He barely looked up from his laptop. He hadn't touched me in months. And I guess I was starving for attention, for connection, for something, anything that made me feel alive again. But even then, even in my loneliest moments, I never expected it to go there. Not with him. The bathroom. That damn bathroom. It was just supposed to be a regular day. I'd just finished folding towels, the sun was leaking through the blinds, soft jazz humming in the background. Everything was normal. But you know what they say, life doesn't warn you before it changes forever. It only takes a second. And in that second, everything in me split into two people. The woman I thought I was, and the woman I became in that bathroom. I still can't decide if I was the victim or the enabler. And that's what eats me alive most nights. Not the act, not even the aftermath, but the ambiguity, the grayness, the terrifying truth that I may have let it happen. And maybe you'll judge me. Maybe you'll hear this and think I'm disgusting. Or maybe you'll understand. Because truth is, nothing is ever as black and white as we like to pretend. Sometimes we live in the spaces in between. The parts we don't talk about. The thoughts we bury. The stories we're afraid to tell. But this is mine, and I need to tell it. Even if it ruins me. Because maybe, just maybe, someone out there has felt this too. Maybe you've stood in a bathroom, heart racing, knees trembling, staring at someone you shouldn't want, and wondering what kind of person that makes you. If that's you, then this story is for you. So please, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold for more stories that test the limits of trust, love, and human complexity. You won't want to miss what happens next. Because this story? It's only just beginning. I'm 38. Not old, not young. Somewhere in between, floating in that strange middle ground where people stop asking how you're doing because they already assume they know. Married. Settled. Stable. But the truth? I haven't felt stable in a long time. Mark, my husband, he used to look at me like I was the only thing in the room. Now, I'm not sure he even sees me when I'm standing right in front of him. He's always busy, always tired, always somewhere else in his head. And when he's home, it's like he's just filling space. We don't touch. We barely talk. It's like living with a stranger who remembers your birthday but forgets who you are. We sleep in the same bed, but it might as well be separate rooms. And I've tried. God knows I've tried. Date nights, little surprises, asking him how his day was, trying to get that spark back. But I stopped when I realized I was always the one trying. Eventually, I just got quiet. It's easier to be invisible than to be ignored. Then my sister called. She asked if Tyler could stay with us for a few weeks while he toured some colleges. She was casual about it, just a favor, you know how he is. He won't be any trouble. And Tyler. Tyler was never trouble. He was 20. Polite. Clean. Soft-spoken. He was always the quiet one at family gatherings, sitting off to the side with a book or helping clean up when no one asked him to. There was something grounded about him. He had this calmness, but not the shy kind. The kind that came with confidence. I told her yes, of course. We had the extra room, and it felt good, doing something useful. It felt like maybe, just maybe, I'd have some company again. Someone to talk to, even if just over dinner. The day he arrived, I remember the way he hugged me. He held on a second longer than expected. Not in a strange way, just long enough to notice. He smiled, said, "You look really good, Aunt Mel." That stuck with me. It had been a long time since anyone told me I looked good. He settled in like he'd always been part of the house. He helped out with the dishes, took his shoes off at the door, thanked me for every meal. It was nice. And the house felt warmer. Not physically, but the energy shifted. There was laughter again. Conversation. Someone who asked me how my day was and actually waited for the answer. Mark barely acknowledged him. He came and went like always. Said a few words here and there, asked Tyler how the college visits were going, then disappeared into his office or the garage. I should have been used to it by now, but the contrast made it worse. Tyler noticed things. He complimented the curtains I changed months ago that Mark never mentioned. He told me my cooking reminded him of his childhood. He even offered to repaint the bathroom when he noticed the peeling near the windowsill. The bathroom. That little room became something sacred to me. It was the only space in the house that was mine. I kept it spotless. Scented candles. Fluffy towels. A small plant on the windowsill I watered like it was a lifeline. I'd sit on the closed toilet seat sometimes just to get away. Read a book. Breathe. Feel like a person. And maybe that's why it happened there. Or maybe it's just coincidence. I don't know anymore. Tyler would pass by me in the hallway, and his shoulder would brush mine just slightly. He'd say good morning in the soft, low tone that made me feel like I mattered. And the way he looked at me. It wasn't inappropriate. At least, not at first. It was focused. Like he really saw me, not as his aunt, not as a wife, just a woman. I hadn't felt seen in years, and I hated how much I liked it. But can you blame me? Can you blame someone for wanting to feel something again? Because when you spend years being invisible, the smallest bit of attention feels like sunlight after a long winter. And he gave me warmth. In ways I didn't know I was still craving. It started slowly. Eye contact that lingered a little too long. A compliment said just above a whisper. A question about my life, about my dreams, my past. Things my husband hadn't asked in over a decade. It felt harmless. Sweet, even. Until it didn't. Because when you're starving, even poison can taste like honey. And I was starving. For affection. For connection. For anything that reminded me I was still alive. But this wasn't supposed to be how I found it. Not like this. Not with him. Still, I didn't stop it. And deep down, I don't think I wanted to. Not yet. Not then. Because the truth is, that moment in the bathroom didn't come out of nowhere. It was building. Day by day. Word by word. Look by look. I just didn't see it clearly until it was too late. And by then, I had already let the door open. I had already let him in. It was a Thursday. Late afternoon. The kind of day that just drifts by without you noticing. Mark was at work as usual. Tyler had gone out for a walk. Said he wanted some fresh air. I was cleaning the bathroom. It's funny how something so small, so ordinary, can end up changing everything. I was wiping down the counter, straightening the bottles, the candles. I always kept things just right in there. I think part of me believed if I could control that little space, then maybe the rest of my life wouldn't feel so messy. And then I saw it. A folded piece of paper, tucked beneath the edge of the shampoo bottle. I thought it was just an old receipt or maybe a reminder I'd written to myself. But when I opened it, my whole body went still. You're more beautiful than you know. 10 simple words. But they hit me like a wave. At first, I just stood there, staring. Reading it over and over like maybe it would say something different the next time. You're more beautiful than you know. It wasn't signed. No initials. No clue. Just those words, hidden in the place I went to be alone. And I remember my first thought being, it couldn't be Mark. Because Mark didn't say things like that anymore. Not even on birthdays. Not even when I dressed up. He used to. But that version of him was gone. So, who? Who wrote it? I tried to laugh it off. Told myself maybe I was imagining things. Maybe it had been there for weeks. But no. I knew better. That handwriting was fresh. The ink hadn't faded. The paper was crisp. Someone put it there. For me. And deep down, I already knew who it was. But I didn't want to believe it. Not yet. Still, I tucked the note into my pocket. Didn't throw it away. Didn't ask why I kept it. Later that night, after dinner, I asked Mark, half joking, trying to keep it light. Hey, did you leave a note in the bathroom for me? He didn't even look up from his laptop. What note? You're more beautiful than you know. I said it with a little laugh, like I was playing. He scoffed. Why would I do that? And just like that, the conversation ended. No curiosity. No follow-up. Just that cold wall of disinterest I'd grown used to. But Tyler was different that night. He was quiet, watching me, his eyes lingering just a second too long. And when we were in the kitchen, just the two of us, he said something I'll never forget. He looked right at me, calm, steady, and said, "Not everything needs to be said out loud to be true." Then he walked away. Like it meant nothing. But it meant everything. Those words sat with me all night. They wrapped around me, soft and dangerous. And suddenly, that little note didn't feel random anymore. I started noticing things I hadn't before, or maybe I had, and I just didn't let myself feel them. The way Tyler always chose the chair across from mine. The way he watched me cook, like it was something worth admiring. The way his eyes dipped to my hands, my lips, then back up, like he was memorizing every inch. It didn't feel like family. And I hated that I noticed. But I did. And that note, it changed the air between us. Made everything feel charged, like a storm was coming. I should have said something. Should have drawn a line. Should have put an end to it right there. But I didn't. Because a part of me, a lonely, aching part of me, wanted to believe it. Wanted to believe someone still saw me that way. Wanted to feel wanted. Even if it was wrong. Even if it meant letting a door crack open, just enough for the danger to slip through. Was I reading into things? Was this just some pathetic fantasy? The attention-starved part of me clinging to whatever scraps it could find? Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I wanted to imagine it. God, I hate that thought. But it kept creeping in. Every time Tyler looked at me a second too long. Every time he smiled at something I said like it mattered. Every time his fingers brushed mine when we passed a dish across the table. I felt it. This slow-burning awareness. Not just of him, but of me. Of how hollow I'd been feeling. Of how long it had been since anyone looked at me like I was more than a body moving through chores and silence. He was just a boy. My nephew, for God's sake. 20 years old. What was I even thinking? But that was the problem. I wasn't thinking. I was feeling. And when you've been ignored for so long, when you've gone years without so much as a lingering touch or a real compliment, you start craving it like oxygen. I used to be beautiful. Or at least I believed I was. I used to turn heads. Men used to stop mid-sentence when I walked into a room. Back then, I wore color. Laughed loudly. Took time on my hair, my lips, my perfume. I used to feel things: light, desire, excitement. Now I blend in with the furniture. Now I'm the one behind the scenes, washing dishes, folding towels, counting laundry loads instead of kisses. So when Tyler started noticing me, I noticed him too. And it wasn't about his age. It wasn't about blood or titles or any of the things that should have stopped me in my tracks. It was about being seen. He watched me like I mattered. Like I was still worth something. He'd help with dinner, lean close while I stirred the pot, his breath warm on my neck when he spoke. He'd say things like, "You're amazing at this," or "I wish my mom had your touch in the kitchen." Simple things. But they landed differently. They clung to me like perfume I couldn't wash off. I started anticipating him, noticing when he entered the room, lingering a little longer in the mirror, fixing my hair before coming downstairs, wearing softer fabrics, lip balm, even. And every night, when the house got quiet, when Mark was snoring beside me, turned away like always, my mind wandered. I'd stare at the ceiling and play out conversations that never happened. Ones where Mark turned to me and said, "I miss you." Or, "You still take my breath away." Or, even just, "I see you." But those words never came. Not from him. And the more silence I got from Mark, the louder Tyler's presence became. I hated myself for it. The guilt, it settled in my chest like a stone. Heavy. Cold. Constant. I'd tell myself, he's just being polite. He's just a sweet kid. And then, but why does he look at you like that? And then, if it meant nothing, why are you thinking about it this much? It got to the point where I was avoiding being alone with him, but secretly hoping it would happen anyway. I was living in this tension, caught between who I was and who I was starting to become. And I tried to suppress it, tried to smother it under chores, errands, noise. But something inside me had already awakened. Something I thought had died years ago. Desire. Need. Longing. Not just for sex or romance, but for presence. For someone to look me in the eyes and stay there. To reach for my hand and actually mean it. To make me feel like I wasn't fading. I told myself it would pass. That it was just a phase. That nothing would come of it. But deep down, I knew. Something had shifted. And there was no going back. It started with little things. Things that didn't seem like much on their own. But when you line them up, one after the other, they told a different story. I was heading to the bathroom one afternoon, laundry basket in hand, mind on autopilot when I noticed the door. It was cracked open. Steam curling out into the hallway. Tyler was inside. The water had stopped running, but he hadn't come out yet. I froze. There was no sound except the slow drip from the faucet. I should have turned away. I should have respected his space. But something made me pause. I leaned just enough to glance inside. And there he was, standing in front of the mirror, towel low on his hips, tracing something on the fogged-up glass with his finger. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did. But he didn't react. He stepped aside, and I saw what he had written. "Do you ever feel alive anymore?" I stood there, heartbeat pounding in my ears, not knowing if I wanted to cry or scream. Those words, they weren't just written on the mirror. They were carved into my chest. I backed away quietly. Pretended I had never been there. Went into the kitchen and scrubbed a clean dish just to feel like I was doing something. Later that evening, I tried to talk to Mark. Tried to draw something out of him. "Do you ever think we've changed?" I asked softly. He looked up from his laptop for a second, gave a shrug. "People change. It's normal." Then right back to typing. I waited, hoped he'd say more. Anything. But nothing came. He didn't ask why I was asking. Didn't look at me like he used to. Didn't even notice I was wearing that blouse he once said made my eyes look like sunlight. So I said nothing else. Went back to my corner of silence. Back to pretending everything was fine. But it wasn't. The next night, everything shifted. I was heading to the bathroom again. Same routine. Except this time, I didn't knock. I opened the door, expecting it to be empty, but it wasn't. Tyler was standing there, dripping, towel slung around his waist. No steam this time. No mirror fog. Just him. And me. We locked eyes. I gasped. Stepped back instinctively, hand reaching for the doorknob. But he didn't flinch. He just looked at me, calm, composed, and said, "It's okay. You don't have to leave." He said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like we'd been here before. Like he wanted me to stay. My breath caught in my throat. My fingers tightened around the knob. And for a moment, I didn't move. Then I left. Closed the door behind me and walked away like my legs were carrying someone else. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, heartbeat echoing in my chest. Mark was beside me, fast asleep. Oblivious. Or maybe not. Maybe he just didn't care enough to ask what was keeping me up. And all I could think about was what would have happened if I hadn't walked away. If I had stepped inside. If I had let the door close behind me. If I had reached out and touched the water droplets clinging to his skin. If I had answered the question on that mirror with something other than silence. Do you ever feel alive anymore? Yes. Yes, I did. In that moment, standing in the doorway, heart racing, body shaking, I felt alive. More than I had in years. And that terrified me. Because feeling alive was beginning to cost me everything I thought I believed about myself. It was no longer just a passing thought or a fleeting look across the dinner table. It had become a presence. A pull I couldn't shake. I knew the line was there. I could see it, clear as day. And I was getting closer to it. Step by step. Heartbeat by heartbeat. And I didn't know how to stop. That was the moment everything blurred. And I knew something was coming. It was raining that night. The kind of rain that makes the whole house feel smaller, quieter. Lonelier. Mark was out of town, business trip. Another conference, another excuse. He didn't even say goodbye when he left. Just a quick, distracted, see you Monday, and the sound of the front door closing. I spent most of the evening trying to distract myself. Folded laundry I didn't need to fold. Reorganized the pantry. Watched a movie I didn't even like. But the rain kept tapping on the windows like it was trying to remind me of something. I went to bed early. Tried to read, but the words blurred. Tried to sleep, but my mind wouldn't settle. That's when I heard it. The water. Running in the bathroom. At first, I thought maybe the faucet had been left on. But then I heard movement. The soft rhythm of water hitting skin. A shower. I didn't think. I just got up. Feet bare, hallway cold, heart already racing. The bathroom door was open. Just like before. And Tyler was inside. Steam clung to the mirror. His back was to me. Towels slung low around his hips. His skin glistening. Drops of water trailing down his spine like tiny threads of silver. He turned his head slightly. And saw me. But he didn't flinch. Didn't cover himself. Didn't move to shut the door. He just watched me. I should have walked away. I wanted to walk away. But I didn't. I stepped inside. Just far enough to reach for the light switch. You forgot to turn it off, I said. My voice was soft. Too soft. Even I could hear the lie in it. Our hands brushed, bare skin against bare skin. A spark. Fleeting, but undeniable. We both froze. And then he whispered, "You don't have to pretend anymore." The words landed heavy. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just honest. Like he'd been waiting to say them. My breath caught. The air between us thick with everything unsaid. He stepped closer. I didn't move. His eyes searched mine, slow and steady. And then, he leaned in. And I didn't stop him. I didn't even think to. His lips brushed mine, gentle, tentative. Not demanding. Just asking. And for a moment, there was no past. No titles. No guilt. Just feeling. Warmth. Closeness. Life. It didn't last long. Maybe it was just a kiss. Maybe it was more. I'm not sure anymore. But I know the silence afterward said everything. He looked at me like he already knew what I was thinking. Like the weight of it was already settling in. I left the room without a word. Walked back to bed like nothing had happened. But everything had. It didn't last long, but it changed everything. The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful. The kind that hums under your skin. Like something's wrong, even if no one's saying it. I came downstairs to make coffee. Tyler was already in the kitchen, pouring cereal. He didn't look up when I entered. Didn't say good morning. And I didn't say anything either. I didn't know how. My hands shook a little when I reached for the mug. I tried to act normal, whatever that even means anymore. But every second felt heavy, like we were both pretending not to remember what happened. He sat at the counter, chewing slowly, staring into his bowl like it had all the answers. And me? I kept my back turned. I couldn't look at him. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't know what I'd see in his eyes. Regret? Guilt? Or worse, indifference? I waited for him to say something. Anything. But the silence between us stretched out like a wall. He left for a campus tour that afternoon. Didn't say where. Didn't ask if I wanted to come. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the window. Mark texted, "Flight's delayed. Be home tomorrow." And I didn't know if I was relieved or disappointed. When Mark finally came through the door the next day, suitcase in hand, tie loose around his neck, I felt that old familiar ache return. He looked at me for maybe 2 seconds. "You okay?" I nodded. He didn't ask anything else. Maybe he noticed the distance. Maybe he felt it in the way I didn't kiss him hello. But if he did, he didn't say a word. He went upstairs. Unpacked. Ate dinner in silence. Same as always. Tyler stayed for 3 more days. 3 long, unbearable days. No more notes. No lingering looks. No light conversations in the kitchen or casual brushes of the hand. Just silence. He was polite. Still helpful. Still calm. But something had shut off. Like he'd flicked a switch inside himself. And I couldn't tell if he was trying to protect me or distance himself from what we'd done. On his last morning, he came down with his duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Said goodbye to Mark with a quick nod. Said, "Thanks again," to me, flat, quiet, distant. And then he was gone. Just like that. I waited until the house was empty again. Until Mark was out back fixing the fence, pretending things were normal. Until the silence felt safe enough to move through. And I went into the bathroom. I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe proof. Maybe closure. The mirror was fogged from my own shower earlier that morning. I wiped it clean, and there it was. Written faintly behind the glass, like it had been pressed there days ago and only revealed now by the heat and steam. I'll always remember that night. Will you? My breath caught. I reached out and touched the words, but they smudged beneath my fingertips. Like they were never really there. And for a second, I wondered. Had I imagined it all? Had I dreamed it up in a haze of loneliness and want? But no. The memory was too sharp. Too real. It happened. It happened. And now, every time I look into that mirror, I don't see myself. I see the version of me I didn't know existed. The one who said nothing. The one who didn't pull away. The one who still isn't sure if she regrets it or misses it. I still don't know who to blame. Him? Myself? Or the loneliness I never chose? Because I didn't ask for this emptiness. I didn't invite it in. It just showed up one day quiet, steady, and made itself at home. And before I knew it, it had settled in my bones. I didn't want to cross a line. I didn't even know I could. But there it was, waiting. And when the moment came, I didn't step back. The bathroom used to be a space where I found peace. My little sanctuary. A place where I could close the door and forget about how cold my marriage had become. Where I could breathe without feeling watched or worse, ignored. Now, it's a wound. A memory sealed into tile and steam and silence. Every time I walk past it, I feel like I'm walking past a version of myself I don't recognize. Or maybe, a version I kept buried for too long. And I keep asking myself, was I manipulated? Did he know what he was doing? Or was I complicit? Did I let it happen because part of me wanted it to? I try to remember the look in his eyes that night. Not just desire. There was something else. Recognition. Like he saw every crack in me and wanted to step inside. And that's what breaks me the most. Not the moment itself. Not the kiss. Not even the guilt that wrapped around me like a second skin. It's the ache. The ache of being seen, really seen, even for a moment. The warmth of it. The danger. The sweetness. That feeling I hadn't had in years. When someone looks at you like you're more than the sum of your responsibilities, more than just someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's afterthought. It does something to you. And it's not easy to come back from that. Mark still doesn't know. Or maybe he does, in the way that people sometimes know things they never say. He doesn't ask questions. Doesn't notice the way I flinch when he walks past me. Doesn't wonder why I close the bathroom door more tightly than before. And I wonder, what does that say about us? About me? I carry this thing inside me now. Not a secret. Not just guilt. But a shift. A quiet understanding that something in me has changed. And maybe you think I'm a monster. Or maybe you understand. Maybe you felt that kind of hunger too. Sometimes, it's not the act itself that destroys you. It's the longing it exposes and the silence that follows. Have you ever done something or felt something that you knew you couldn't talk about? Not to your friends, not to your partner, not even to yourself? Something that made you look in the mirror and ask, who am I really? Because I've asked myself that every day since that night. And I still don't have the answer. I don't know if what happened was wrong. I don't know if it was crossing a line, or if the line had already been blurred long before we ever touched. I don't know if I was taken advantage of, or if I wanted to be. If I opened the door, or if I just stopped holding it shut. But maybe you do. Maybe you can see what I can't. Was it emotional manipulation? Was it loneliness? Was it just human? I don't know, but I'd like to hear what you think. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me, was this something innocent that turned dark, or something dark that was just waiting to happen? And if you've ever found yourself in a moment you couldn't explain, in a feeling you couldn't admit out loud, you're not alone. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. For more stories that live in the shadows of our quiet lives. The stories we bury. The ones that never really go away. The bathroom used to be the one place I could be alone. A space that belonged to me. Clean. Quiet. Safe. Now it's where the silence screams the loudest. Now it's where I go and remember the weight of a glance, the warmth of a touch, the price of being seen. Be careful what you invite in when you're feeling empty. Because not all attention is kind. Not all connection is pure. Some lines, once crossed, can never be unseen. And some truths we carry forever. This was my story. A true story. Believe it or don't. But I'll never forget it.